Yes, the summer is over and it's list-making time once again, because this is the internet and that's how we mark the beginning and end of things. We're gonna jump right in here, but first, just to be clear, this isn't necessarily a list of the best films that happen to come out in the summer. For purposes of coherency, we're gonna restrict this to films that actually fit the summer movie paradigm in some way. For example, Woody Allen's Blue Jasmine did in fact come out this summer, and is better than a lot of movies on this list, but it's not really a summer movie. It's an award season movie that they released early. Is this ultimately a completely meaningless distinction? Yes it is. But my list, my rules, and so we begin. Maniac. Slasher movies and serial killers are both pretty played out as genres, but here's a movie, a remake of a cult classic from 1980, that breathes new life into both by putting you behind the eyes of Elijah Wood as one sick, sadistic scumbag of a serial killer. That's right, it's a first-person view of a multiple murder spree, and it's even more disturbing than you're thinking. Pitch dark stuff and not for the squeamish, but also fresh, original, and for good or ill, absolutely unforgettable, no matter how hard you try. Pain and Gain. If nothing else, this pitch-black, quintessentially American tragicomedy is the realization of all that promise Michael Bay showed all the way back in Bad Boys. Love or hate his signature style and recurring visual and thematic fixations, Bay is the id of the American underbelly, and Pain and Gain is the tasteless, vicious, gleefully nihilistic masterpiece he was born to make. Was it worth waiting through the Transformers movies to get here? No, but it's close. Elysium. Just as with District 9, Neil Blomkamp once again challenges the popular assumption that a movie can't be thrilling, exciting, and about something more than just delivering a visceral thrill. Radical and politically charged to a degree that most serious films seldom care to be, Elysium is a class-conscious rabble-rouser in the guise of a sci-fi shoot-'em-up that wants to light a fire under its viewers on issues like immigration, healthcare, and wealth disparity. That a major motion picture would attempt this shouldn't be surprising or brave, but it is. Youre Next. One of the big stories of 2013 has been the return of high-quality horror to theaters, and while Youre Next wasn't the biggest hit, it left a mark with discerning audiences who sought it out. A nightmare mashup of slasher, home invasion, and mystery thrillers, its big central gimmick is simply having a really good script where the twists are surprising, the events all make sense, and even the stupid characters are smarter than you'd expect them to be in this genre. Plus, it features one of the best new horror movie heroines in quite some time. The Conjuring. Speaking of a good year for horror, James Wan, who co-launched the Saw franchise and followed it up with the not terribly good Dead Silence, the underappreciated Death Sentence, before surprising everyone with the old-school Insidious, really hit one out of the park with one of the best haunted house movies in years. Yeah, you've seen hundreds of based on a dubious at best true story ghost flicks over the years, but rarely are they this well made, this well acted, and this genuinely terrifying. The Great Gatsby. Everyone, including me, thought Baz Luhrmann doing Gatsby in 3D would be the biggest joke in years, and we were mostly wrong. Did the film have problems? Absolutely, but as a jazz-age mood piece buoyed by an all-time great movie star performance by Leonardo DiCaprio, it managed to be a real rarity, a movie that plays like a blockbuster event film, even though when you get right down to it, it's mostly just a handful of characters hanging out, flirting, arguing, and blowing huge stacks of cash. Part of the secret seems to be Luhrmann zeroing in on what every other adaptation of Fitzgerald's book somehow managed to miss. Despite the period, the prose, and the pedigree, Gatsby is a young person's story at heart, and it only works if you can put the audience in that kind of reckless, romantic headspace. Furious 6. Yep, it took 6 movies, but I'm finally on board with the Fast and the Furious series. Somewhere along the line, this improbable franchise morphed from a trilogy of loosely affiliated, brain-dead racing flicks to something kind of special in the world of action. Movies that work just as well, whether you're appreciating their moronic self-insistence ironically, or actually buying into the absurdly earnest automotive heroics. So yeah, bring on Part 7, and maybe find a part for Burt Reynolds, huh? Iron Man 3. Where do you go with a character whose previous appearance was in an industry-redefining crossover so epic and massive it threatens to render his solo presence an afterthought? You strip him down and get back to basics. Shane Black's rollicking Marvel threequel saved the pyrotechnics for Act 3, stripped Tony Stark of his weapons cache, and sent him on a DIY detective mission through a surprisingly dark, politically charged conspiracy thriller with the year's best-kept secret as a surprise twist payoff. If the other post-Avengers Marvel sequels are half this good, these characters will be with us for a long, long time. The World's End. I'm still not used to the fact that my pathetic generation is now old enough to be genuinely nostalgic about our youth, and I've been dreading when we reach our big chill phase, but if this inevitable cycle of wistful, backward-glancing keeps yielding movies as fantastic as this latest Edgar Wright, Nick Frost, Simon Pegg collaboration, I'll be just fine. It's a grand action comedy, a moving drama about the passage of time, and includes the best acting of Pegg's career to date. If you haven't seen this yet, you probably should. Pacific Rim. Yup, I'm still pumped and standing by this one. When we're looking back on the history of big movies from this particular moment in time, Pacific Rim will be one of the ones that mattered. A nearly perfect crowd pleaser that finds the right spot between being young at heart without being juvenile. Here's a film that didn't seek to transcend or transform a genre, but to embody it better than anyone had before. At once mythic and classically structured, it's also quietly revolutionary in the way it finds its place into modernity. A big sweeping action film that swaps out the patriotic nationalism typical of the genre with a progressive vision of heroics for the age of globalism and internationalism. capitalism. It's a movie of the future, but we got to watch it today. Well, there you go, the 10 best movies of the summer. If you're looking for a 10 worst list, you know what, let's save the worst movies of summer for the end of the year. Besides, do you really want to hear me go on and tell you this stuff again? I mean, come on, you've already heard me say why Star Trek Into Darkness sucked, you don't need to hear it again. However, there was one movie this year that would qualify as the most disappointing movie of summer. 3 guesses what it is. Yep, we'll get to that next week. I'm Bob, and that's The Big Picture.